All right. Thanks for joining us on Wisdom Beyond the Classroom. Our special guest and a friend of mine today is Punam Saxena. Poonam is, well, there's a lot we could say about Poonam, but she is well-versed in all things educational. She's a parent of 4. She holds a bachelor's degree in psychology from Emory University. She has a master's degree in education from the University of South Florida. Throughout her 30 plus years of experience between teaching and volunteering in her children's schools, she's implemented several procedures that benefited students and administrators within the school district. Poonam is a parent impact coach. She is a podcast host, which we'll find out a little bit more about. She is an author. She is a speaker, and very recently, she's also a TEDx speaker. So she has done a lot of cool things. Essentially, her work focuses on bridging the gap and fostering a stronger relationship between parents and schools by empowering parents to become partners in their child's education. Poonam, thank you so much for joining me.
Brian, it's a pleasure, and it's so good to see you.
Absolutely. It is wonderful to see you. I think you look younger than the last time I saw you, by the way.
Oh, flatterer.
There's a lot of things we're going to discuss, and there's a lot of things we could first get into. One of the first things I actually want to get into is the fact that you've been recognized as the Volunteer of the Year at Harrison School for the Arts, and you have received a key to the city, what they call a key to the city in Lakeland, Florida. So my question is, what does one have to do to, get a key to a city? What has come from that? Are you able to just drive at high speeds and eat at any restaurant you want and it's paid for? Like, what does that mean when you get a key to the city?
No freebies.
Okay.
I can tell you that. You don't get any
Okay.
special treatment when you go out. Basically, the mayor of the city saw the leadership the leadership roles I was taking in the community, at the school district, at the city, at the chamber. And my goal was always to make sure that we were doing what was in the best interest of not only our citizens today, but our future citizens,
Yep.
which is our children.
That's wonderful.
And he recognized that. He had asked me to sit on several committees at the city of Lakeland. And yeah, I was at a fundraiser at the school, and I had invited him to come speak. And I'm standing in the back listening to his welcoming remarks. And he goes, "I know Poonam's here somewhere. Can she come down?" And I'm like, oh no, what just happened? And in front of the entire student body and in front of all of the leaders at the school and our community, he offered me this key to the city.
Oh my
and
gosh.
It was one of the most humbling moments of my life.
Oh my gosh, what an honor.
Because you don't know what impact you're making on your community. You just get up and do what you know is right. And to be recognized by the leader was just amazing.
That is amazing. And you didn't know it was coming.
I had no idea.
Oh my gosh.
Like zero idea. And thankfully I had pockets in my dress that night because I didn't want anyone to take it. So I hid it in my pocket because it was such a precious,
oh my gosh,
precious piece of validation.
That is beautiful. That is amazing. What an honor. That is wonderful and well deserved as well.
Well, thank you. It's right here. When you come to Georgia, I'll show it to you.
Awesome. It's going to happen. It's going to happen one of these days for sure.
Absolutely.
So I want to know where this passion come from, specifically to help empower parents to essentially be an advocate for their child by, becoming more involved in the child's school. Like, where did that passion really come from?
It's a really interesting question because I didn't know that the work that I had been doing when my children were at home
Mm-hmm.
and in school was actually going to turn into something.
Mm-hmm.
So when my children were in school, I have four, they're 4.5 years apart.
Mm-hmm.
And for all you math wizards out there, there are twins in there.
Mm.
So that's how you get to that number.
Mm-hmm.
But I stayed at home, and when they started school, I needed something for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I started going to their school, started helping in the media center,
Mm-hmm.
filing books, checking them out, getting to know the teachers, getting to know the administrators. And I did that for the 18 years my kids were in school.
Wow.
The roles became bigger, they were more meaningful, they were more impactful, they were more systemic.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was a building block.
Mm-hmm.
And when the kids went off to college, I told my husband, I'm like, I'm taking 6 months off. I'm going to think about what I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
I do not want to do anything in education. I've
Mm-hmm.
been a teacher, a student, an advocate. I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
And 6 months later, I'm like, the thing I know best is how to help children
Mm-hmm.
and how to help parents.
Mm-hmm.
And so, parent impact coach really means helping parents impact their children's education and
Mm-hmm.
knowing that they have a voice, understanding how to use that voice
Mm-hmm.
in a meaningful way, build relationships
Mm-hmm.
that are authentic and genuine, and being solution oriented.
Mm-hmm.
Because many times parents only are visible in the school when there's an issue.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I argue that that's not the time you need to be seen. You need to
Mm.
be seen in the positive times,
Right.
in the very mundane times, and
Mm-hmm.
even in those high stress times.
Mm-hmm.
Because those high stress times are when parents and teachers need to work together.
Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
having those building blocks really ensures that happens when
Mm-hmm.
there's a crisis.
Right. Yeah, that's amazing that you had the opportunity to do that, and then that you learned that from your experiences, and then are able to to give back to other parents in that way. That is awesome. So my question to you that centers around that is, how can this be done in a simple way without being either a helicopter parent that really oversteps the boundaries, or even if we go the opposite way, the parent that is like super busy and it's really hard for them to be involved.
Helicopter parents, I'm going to back up for just a minute. I will say that my children would probably tell you
Mm-hmm.
that I was a helicopter parent at times.
Uh-huh.
But I was very passionate about what I did, and
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to make sure that there was full communication.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest challenge that we have, and the tightrope that we walk as parents, is how much is too much
Mm-hmm.
and how little is too little.
Mm-hmm.
And that really depends on the child. If
Mm-hmm.
the child is super independent,
Yeah.
they're getting their work done, they're turning it in, they're being responsible, then you
Mm-hmm.
have a little more leeway.
Mm-hmm.
If the child needs a little more coddling, then you need to coddle a little.
Right.
And neither is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the independent child can make you crazy because they just get it done. And you don't have, there's nothing for you to worry about,
Mm-hmm.
which is a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
But then you start worrying about other things.
Mm-hmm.
And then the full on freedom parent who's not able to get involved, they can have challenges that
Mm-hmm.
occur in their children where they don't have the time management skills,
Mm-hmm.
or they don't have the work ethic that they're going to need.
Mm-hmm.
Children being in schools is a roadmap to what their life is going to be like when they get out in the real world.
Mm.
So we need to model what we want our children to emulate, not only
Mm.
in school, but when they get out in the real world.
Mm-hmm.
So the same mayor who gave me the key to the city asked me one time, how do you raise your children to be independent and accomplish all these goals?
Mm-hmm.
And I turned it back on him. I said, just like you emulate and you model the behavior, and your
Right.
children follow.
Right.
And the word that if I said it in our household, my kids would run and
Mm.
hide, is complacency.
Ah.
So we call it the C word.
Mm-hmm. The
And
C word.
the C word. And I'll tell you, they used to run and hide when I said it, because I would tell them, your dad works hard. He is not complacent.
Mm-hmm.
I get up, I take care of you guys, I take care of the house, I make sure everything is smooth, you all have what you want. I am not complacent.
Mm-hmm.
Your job is to go to school. You can't be complacent.
Mm-hmm.
And so that became the word that we used when we felt they were not living to their potential.
Mm-hmm.
And the potential didn't have to be A's or C's or D's.
Mm-hmm.
It had to be a full-on effort.
Mm-hmm.
And I think parents need to kind of step back and look at what their child is capable of, and then where they need help. So when you're
Mm-hmm.
talking about helicoptering or full-on freedom, it
Mm-hmm.
really depends on that child.
Mm. That's very true. That's a really good point. And I think that's a really good point about the C word as well, because that complacency is gonna, if that's the way it is, I mean, that's just gonna carry with them into them being an adult, right? And then you're right, it's not living to your full potential, it's just kind of coasting by, um, which isn't what we want of our kids. It's not what we want of our, future generation.
It also isn't what an employer wants.
Right. Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's not how you get ahead, right? It's not how you be the best at whatever you want to do, right? It's I like the term of get paid for more than do more than what you're paid for, right? Like really put out your best effort. Absolutely. The C word, I like that. I'm gonna I might steal that from you, Poonam.
Absolutely. And
I
I will
love that.
tell you that one of my kids got grounded for being complacent,
Hmm.
for getting an 88B in a math class.
Oh,
And
really?
it wasn't the B, it was the lack of effort.
Wow. Uh,
He will not let me live it down. I promise you.
well, he's probably, hopefully also just he remembers that in a way of like, hey, I can't do this. I got to give more of an effort. So,
Yeah.
you have been quite busy. You have a podcast. You wrote a book. You recently did a TED Talk, and congratulations. That's amazing. All of them are
Thank
amazing. So I want to find out a little bit more about each of those. So talk to us the name of the podcast and what it's all about.
The name of the podcast is EDU Me, and Ryan has been a guest on
I
there
have. Yep.
to talk about his amazing book, Wisdom Beyond the Classroom.
Thank you.
This is pre-podcast. This
Right.
is pre your podcast.
Right. This is exactly.
And so my podcast really focuses on helping parents feel comfortable
Mhm.
in their day-to-day life and break down those barriers between what their mindset is about schools
Mhm.
and what actually is, so that they can walk in and feel a they can feel like a partner.
Mm-hmm.
But we know, you and I know as former teachers,
Mm-hmm.
that to get parents in the door, we have to take all of this other away from them.
Mm-hmm.
The mental barrier, the physical barrier, the time barrier,
Mm-hmm.
and just the day-to-day activities that they have. So the podcast really focuses on the different facets of parenting
Mm-hmm.
while still pivoting towards ensuring that our children are getting what they need in school.
Mm-hmm. Love it.
So that's what the podcast talks
Mm-hmm.
about.
That's awesome. I will absolutely be, I'll have a link on here for that. Now let's shift to the book. Name of the book that you wrote, and what it's all about.
So the book has been something I've always wanted to write,
Mm-hmm.
probably 10 years, but I never knew what I wanted to write about until
Mm-hmm.
I started the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm like, wow, this is something I can do. So the name of the book is called Parent Power: Navigate School and Beyond.
Mm-hmm.
And
Love
it's
it.
all about normalizing parenthood.
Mm-hmm.
You're a young parent, and I know at times that you're overwhelmed
Mm-hmm.
and you're just trying to make sure that you're not the only one out there that feels that way.
Mm-hmm.
And we parents tend to take so much on ourselves and say, we're the only ones dealing with this.
Mm-hmm.
Our child is doing this. We must be the only ones. So
Mm-hmm.
this book really takes you through a guide of step back, take a breath. You're going to get through it.
Mm-hmm.
We talk about self-care. We talk about getting involved in schools, discrimination, diversity,
Mm-hmm.
empty nesting, all different kinds of aspects of our parenting.
Mm-hmm.
And the one you probably might um, appreciate, and that is be a good sport. And I'm not
Mm-hmm.
talking about I'm not talking about the students.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking
Right.
about
Right.
parents, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it also provides practical strategies and solutions.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really what it's about. It's written in a very conversational
Mm-hmm.
style, and each chapter ends with Poonam's perspective,
Mm-hmm.
which is my own personal anecdote for why I believe that chapter is important to parenthood.
Mm, I love that. And congratulations on writing the book. I know that's it's not an easy thing to do. What was the time period like? How long do you think that it took you to write the book?
I'm going to say probably 9 months.
Okay, 9 months. Good. I think that's less amount of time than it took me to write mine. It takes time.
It takes a lot of time, and it's not
Mm-hmm.
the writing part, it's the editing part, and
Mm-hmm.
making sure that the words you're putting out there are the words you mean.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, I love that. It's like, this is a great book for parents because it's your wisdom and experience in the classroom, out of the classroom, being a parent of four. I love that you did that. That is awesome.
Well,
Um,
thank you.
and the speaking, now I know that you're a speaker, but then like, let's take that to the next level. That here recently you did a TED talk, which is amazing. And personally, I've thought, yeah, I'd love to do that. So how did that happen? And then talk to us about the name and about the actual talk itself.
I was sitting in a podcast conference in Orlando the
Mm-hmm.
week before the world shut down,
Mm-hmm.
March of 20, no,
2020.
2020.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the last speaker of the conference, and I'm just trying to wrap my head around everything. And I'm half listening to what she's saying.
Mm-hmm.
And she said something, and it caught my attention, the force, the emotion, the passion that she was speaking with.
Mm.
And I decided in that moment, I want to be a speaker.
Mm.
And FYI, I'm terrified of public speaking,
Mm.
absolutely terrified. But I thought, you know what? Why not?
Mm-hmm.
What do I have to lose?
Right.
So I looked her up. I started following her on Facebook and Instagram, and I started coming into her Facebook Lives
Mm-hmm.
and found out she was a coach for
Mm.
TEDx.
Oh, awesome.
And I thought, I don't want to be a TEDx speaker. I just
Mm-hmm.
want to be a speaker. So if
Right.
she can help me just figure out how to get over the obstacle that I put in my way,
Mm-hmm.
then I'll be good.
Mm-hmm.
And so I get into the first class and she goes, I'm sorry, you signed up to be a TEDx speaker. So we're going to work on that. And
Oh, wow.
oh, okay. So this is real. So I worked with her and my cohort for about 3 months. I started randomly applying to different places
Mm.
and I got in to Ocala.
Wow.
And the curator at TEDx Ocala calls me, and I had done some research on all the places I had applied. So I knew on my caller ID when her name came up, I knew
Mm-hmm.
who she was.
Right.
And I'm like, eek, what does this mean?
Mm.
And she said, I just want to congratulate you on being accepted into TEDx Ocala.
Wow.
And I'm like, I'm sorry, could you please repeat that?
Yeah.
And so the first thing I did was go running down the hall, screaming like a wild banshee, jumping up and down because I could not believe it.
Wow.
And then I called my parents, and then I called my coach,
Mm-hmm.
and I said, guess what? I'm going to be doing a TEDx talk.
Wow.
So the interesting thing about TEDx is that it's one idea.
Mm-hmm.
So their tagline is ideas worth sharing, but you
Mm-hmm.
only have one idea.
Yeah.
So it can't be a speech.
Mm-hmm.
It's a talk.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the hard part, is narrowing down exactly what you want to say. What's your idea?
Mm-hmm.
So everything that you say has to do with that.
Mm-hmm.
So it took me 5 months to prepare for that talk.
Mm. So you didn't already have the topic like that you sent to them
I
before that
did.
you did. Okay.
I
Mm-hmm.
did. So you do a
Mm-hmm.
2-minute pitch to them,
Mm-hmm.
but then you have to expand upon it, and put in examples and all of these different aspects of it. And it has to be very tailored.
Mm-hmm.
So my TEDx talk is called "The Key to Enhancing Student Success,"
Mm.
and it's really about my journey as an immigrant. I'm sorry, as a first generation child
Mm-hmm.
in this country,
Mm-hmm.
and navigating the education system, the challenges that I faced in the 1970s
Mm-hmm.
growing up, and really how it has been the journey that has taken me to this point,
Mm-hmm. It's amazing.
which is what I'm doing now.
Mm.
Because I don't want any other child to face the challenges I faced.
Mm. That is amazing. I love that you did that, and it's fantastic. I watched it a couple times,
Oh, well,
and
thank you.
oh yeah, it was very, very good. And you didn't seem nervous at all. Had you practiced it so many times that once you got up there, it was like, I got this, or were you still like, I am super nervous?
It was almost rote at that point.
Mm-hmm.
I had practiced it so many times
Mm-hmm.
that I knew the 10 things I wanted to say.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was just clicking them off in my head.
Mm-hmm.
I did have slides, which helped.
Right. Right.
But I think I was terrified, first of all. And second of all, they were live streaming it. And so there were about 40 of my family members from India on it.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the first time they probably have ever heard me talk
Wow.
on a professional level.
That's so cool.
Because I've always been the stay-at-home mom, right? I've got
Right.
4 kids. I'm raising them. That's my job. But they haven't really known what I've been doing for the last 4 years.
Wow, that's so cool. They're like, oh my gosh, look at Poonam. She's amazing. Like, where did this come from?
Exactly. And I'm the baby of the family. I'm
Uh-huh.
at the bottom of the totem pole. So
Mm-hmm.
so it was one of those moments that I will cherish all my life.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. So it was live stream because it almost seems like it was live because I heard like laughter at some point, unless they put that in, or I heard something that was like, oh yeah, it seems live.
It was limited in person.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha.
And
Gotcha.
then, so we did not want to expose our parents to
Right.
anything. So we made them stay home. They were not happy, but that was
Mm,
okay.
yeah.
So there was an audience, but
Mhm.
but one of the amazing things about doing a TEDx talk is everyone in the audience is rooting for you.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
They want you to succeed, and
Mm-hmm.
your other speaker colleagues are just clapping for you and cheering for you. It's a
Mm-hmm.
wonderful, wonderful support system
That's so
that you
cool.
just fall into.
Mm-hmm. And how many people gave a speech that day?
There were 13 people who gave speeches,
Mm-hmm.
and I want to say 4 or 5 of us were from out of state.
Okay. That's so cool. What a great experience. And again, you did a fantastic job.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. The tagline for my podcast with Wisdom Beyond the Classroom goes along with accelerate your learning, master your mindset, and believe in yourself. My thoughts, I'm curious about your thoughts with that when it comes to, parents and when it comes to students. I guess you don't have to answer all parts of that, the accelerate your learning, master your mindset, or believe in yourself. But, um, I guess, how do you think someone goes about that, whether that's the parent or whether that's, the student?
We often look at learning as a classroom event.
Mm-hmm.
It's a book, writing, test type of learning.
Mm-hmm.
And we tend to forget that learning happens every single day in our environment.
Mm-hmm.
We wake up, my computer doesn't boot, I've got to call tech support.
Mm-hmm.
I'm learning how to reboot my computer,
Mm-hmm.
which happens more often than not, by the way. But we forget that learning is environmental.
Mm-hmm.
We walk outside and we take a walk and we're looking at the leaves turning or the water flowing down the creek.
Mm-hmm.
That's learning.
Mm-hmm.
Where's the water coming from? Why are the leaves turning? Why are these leaves turning versus those leaves?
Mm-hmm.
We're learning beings.
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes to accelerate your learning, just learn, just appreciate where you are and be curious.
Mm-hmm.
We don't ask enough questions.
Mm-hmm.
We tend to be okay with the status quo because that's what happens.
Mm-hmm.
I am dying to know how TV works.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how does it get broadcast to all of those different places?
Right.
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 Now, I mean, I could probably Google it, but I'm still curious about those things. So day to day, to accelerate your learning, learn one thing a day, something you didn't know. And when we're talking about believing in yourself, I can tell you, I didn't believe in myself for a long time until I started realizing that my voice matters just as much as anyone else's. So until I believe in myself, no one else is.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so
absolutely.
I love that these are your taglines because we all have something to offer. It's the confidence with which we approach it
Hmm.
determines how wide our net is cast.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, believe in yourself. I mean, that's what it comes down to first. I saw something funny the other day, and it said, believe in yourself even when nobody else does. And it's signed Bigfoot, picture of Bigfoot. Even when
I love
nobody
it.
else does, believe in yourself.
Yeah.
And that's where it starts. You know, things have changed so much in the last couple of years with, I mean, in a lot of ways, but with education. And I think that it's, I think it's harder for parents in a lot of ways to find motivation for their kids, and having a real interest in school with everything that's going on. There's a lot of distractions, and now there's distant learning. What are your thoughts on that as far as, continuing to be able to keep kids motivated and with what's going on?
So there are three things that I would offer.
Hmm.
One is be patient.
Hmm.
Be patient with yourself and be patient with your child.
Hmm.
We are all in this very tumultuous time,
Hmm.
and we're all trying to figure out how to cope. And
Right.
everyone copes differently.
Hmm.
Our children haven't developed their coping skills, so we have to be extra patient with them.
Hmm. Right.
And some adults too needs some coping skills.
Right.
The other thing is make learning fun.
Hmm.
Learning is so we have this tunnel vision that learning is supposed to be rote,
Right.
and it's supposed to be this prescribed manner of absorbing information,
Hmm.
and that's not true. We can learn and still make it fun.
Hmm. Absolutely.
I don't know how you make calculus fun, but I love calculus. So,
Uh-huh.
but for the younger kids, the middle school kids, even high school, play games with them. If it's if it's a tough assignment, when they're done, let them have some fun.
Hmm. Totally.
Just they need mental breaks. And I
Totally.
heard the other day that mental health in children is going to be the number one health issue that we have to deal with.
Hmm. I believe it. Yeah, absolutely.
So,
So you said, patience, right?
mhm.
Patience for the parent, patience for the kids. You said to have fun, and what was the third one?
The third one is this too shall pass.
Hmm.
We
Right.
may not believe it. My
Hmm.
mother-in-law used to say that to me, and I would just shake my head. No, it's not. No, it's not.
Hmm.
She was right. It
Yeah.
does pass.
Yeah.
And it's a phase. It's not fun.
Right.
It's challenging. But the upside is we will never again have this much time with our children
Mm-hmm.
again.
Mm-hmm.
And I say that for my adult children as well.
Mm-hmm.
This quality time that we have, we've got to take advantage of it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, nothing lasts forever, and
Yeah.
this too shall pass. It's very, very true. It's hard for us to remember that a lot of times when we're in something and it feels like it's forever, but it's very true. It's very true. Those are three excellent points. Thank you for sharing that. And you mentioned the mental health. So, when we talk about things like stress and depression and even like suicide, these are things that have risen in our youth. um, what do you see as a solution, to help, if you're a parent or just for kids in general, to combat that?
We're in such a sad state in our society when our children think they don't have an out, that
Mm.
suicide is their only way
Hmm.
to get relief. It's beyond my comprehension
Mm.
that a child could feel that way.
Hmm.
So to parents, I would say you've got to keep communicating with them.
Hmm.
Even when those walls are put up by them, they're not wanting to talk, you still have to figure out a way,
Hmm.
whether it's doing an activity together that's creating that bond, or
Right.
sitting down and just saying, listen, we have an issue. I have an issue. Can you talk me through it?
Mm-hmm.
Play role reversal. Um,
Mm-hmm.
the biggest thing that we can do is to put down our devices
Mm-hmm.
and talk.
Mm-hmm.
We spend an inordinate amount of time on our phones and our iPads or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
Netflix, whatever it is. We just have to sit down and talk. And it goes back to what we used to do in this, well, my family did in our household growing up. We had dinner time
Mm-hmm.
and we had to talk. We had to
Yeah.
share something, and it just broke down the stigma and those walls of not wanting to share,
Mm-hmm.
because you want children to feel safe. And the
Mm-hmm.
only way to do that is to talk to them. And dinner time is a great place and time to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's extremely healthy to put away our devices, not bring those devices to the table, right? And just talk and communicate and do so with compassion, you know.
Yeah.
Excellent. And so, moving forward here, we're almost in the new, it's amazing that we're almost done with 2021 here, and we're looking at the new year. What are your plans for this upcoming new year?
When you sent me the questions, I actually had to think about what I wanted to do because I haven't really thought about it. I've kind
Mm-hmm.
of been going with the flow.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so the one thing that I want to do is have more speaking opportunities
Mm-hmm.
to speak to schools, to speak to parent organizations, and even to businesses. I want businesses to realize that children are their workforce in the future.
Mm-hmm.
And if they will invest time in their employees
Mm-hmm.
for their employees to take time off and engage in schools, then
Mm.
they're going to have a seamless flow of employees coming through for the next 25, 30 years.
Mm.
And I know
Wow.
that all of our businesses want that.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to be able to provide strategies to businesses for that.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to write another book.
Oh, really? Wow. You,
Yes.
you want to give us a preview of what that's going to be
Sure.
about?
It's going to be short stories,
Oh.
and it's going to be loosely based on my life as an immigrant,
Mm-hmm.
or parents or child of immigrants,
Mm-hmm.
but also to be an immigrant in what I consider my home country, which is India.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm kind of what I call a hybrid child. I
Mm-hmm.
kind of live 37,000 feet above the Atlantic Ocean with 1 foot in India and 1 foot here.
Mm.
So I'm going to write about that.
That's awesome. That's great. I'm going to be checking in with you and seeing how that's going. I
Okay,
love
give me
it.
a couple of months, Orion.
I will. I definitely will. One of the questions, or the question I really ask everyone that comes on, is if you could go back in time and give your teenage self one piece of advice, what would that be?
That I'm good enough,
Mm. Mm-hmm.
that I am more capable than I ever gave myself credit for.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's what I would tell her.
I love it. I love it. You're good enough now. You're good enough with the picture behind you. You have that picture up because today is your dad's 83rd birthday, and he's holding you there as a 3-day-old baby. I love that. That you guys did a Zoom call for him. And so if we want to find you and whether we want to reach out to you and seek out your advice or just follow you or become friends with you because you're amazing, where can we find you?
You can go to my website, www.edu-me.net. I am all over social media at the EDU Me on Facebook and Instagram. I'm
Mhm.
on Twitter, LinkedIn. I'm even on TikTok.
Wow.
That's really scary though. I wouldn't go on my TikToks. I don't do well on TikTok, but I like watching.
Awesome. So
But
you're all over the place, and I'll put all those links.
and the book is available on Amazon and the TEDx talk is on YouTube.
That's fantastic. I love what you're doing. I love what you're putting out into the world and making it a better place for generations to come. So thank you for all that you do. And I'm happy to say that I'm a friend of yours. So
Oh,
Poonam, thank you so much for joining us today.
Ryan, it has been an absolute pleasure chatting with you and learning about all the great things you're doing.